Brad, we spoke to you this time last week about the challenge of playing Adelaide, and obviously you passed with flying colours, but I guess the challenge is to back it up.
Oh yeah, it always is. I mean, we're coming off a good performance, and so is Sydney. So Sydney has started to get a couple of their really good players back, and they present a really solid challenge. And we'd like to. Certainly, we've got a fortress at Blundstone Arena, and it's a unique ground, and we'd like our fans to come out and support us and turn Etihad back into the fortress that it was for us a few years ago. So hopefully we get a really good North Melbourne turnout and they can get out and see these young guys go at it.
Sydney are a lot better than a side than they're sitting at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, I think their history says that. They're a really proud club, and they usually follow up poor performances with really good performances, and that's probably been the surprise for the whole football world. But I think we can all dig a little bit deeper than just a win or a loss and see that they're still a really capable side, and they've got a lot of great players, so we're going to have to be at our best to beat them.
How do you fill the void left by Jared? I know he didn't play the first 5 weeks, but then comes out and plays like that. How disappointing is it not to have him?
Oh yeah, it's just a matter of the next guy comes in and plays the role. We don't expect them to play exactly like Jared because he's a really unique player for us, but we think we've got a lot of options there, and we can go really tall, or we can be a bit more flexible with our talls, and we'll hopefully get some guys back this week that will help cover it. But yeah, it'd be nice to have him out there.
Obviously, it was probably a tough decision to see him suspended. What do you say to Jared, and what do you do going forward in relation to those tackles?
Oh well, it's what I want to make clear is, we wanted to challenge it. We sought one legal opinion and didn't agree with that, so we sought another one and didn't agree with that one. So we want to be clear that we didn't agree with the decision. We're not happy with it. But the system is that if we challenged, he would have got 2. So we accepted the penalty based on the system, not on the incident. We had 2 players who received free kicks for dangerous tackles in the game, and those Adelaide players are free to play this week. I mean, the only difference is that our players braced their fall with their arm free, as Tom Lynch had an arm free, and one player got concussed, the others didn't. So it's clearly on, it's an outcome-based MRP at the moment. So what do you say to players? Well, hope that the opposition player braces his fall, or in Tom Lynch's case, let him kick the goal. We didn't think Wadey had too many other options, but again, the system is set up so that we can't. The risk of challenging is just too great. But one thing is really clear is that Jared Waite, people will go back, and I think you did during the week, Pete, go back and look at his history. But as a North Melbourne player, he's been a model citizen. He's been outstanding for us on field and off field, and I don't have to talk to him at all about discipline, because this is not a disciplinary issue.
Have you spoken to the AFL about your concerns about that particular incident?
No, we haven't. No, there's no point sort of back-channeling this one. They're clearly saying from up above that concussion's a really serious issue, which it absolutely is. And if there's a concussion, there'll be a suspension. I don't think there's enough focus on the mitigating circumstances. It's simply that there's a concussion and there's going to be a result from it. No, I'm not sure if that's right going forward when you play such a contact sport.
Does it frustrate you that if you appeal, it's likely to get 2 weeks, that it's almost impossible to appeal at the tribunal?
Yeah, well, they will say that no, he got 2 weeks reduced down to 1, but they set the system up that way. So, I think that's a flimsy argument. It's just, they're trying to reduce time at the tribunal, and they've done it really effectively.
So you'd be more comfortable if it was determined based on just the action rather than the outcome?
Yeah, well, that's when it gets hard for players, that you're saying, well, it's out of your control. I understand there's a duty of care to the player, and if you have a look at the incident, Wadey actually could have lined Tom Lynch up when he was sitting under a touched hospital high ball, but he didn't. He waited for him to take possession, but to be honest, I've talked probably more than I wanted to about the incident. We've just got to move on from it. We don't agree with it, but what I do want to do is make sure that that Jared's tribunal record's got nothing to do with this particular incident. He's been a model person here at North.
What about Mason Wood? He's got a lot on his shoulders this week. How do you see his game shaping up?
Well, he's got no more on his shoulders more than any of our other forwards. We've still got great variety. He played well on the weekend, and we're happy to have him back from injury. So we've just got to make sure he gets some continuity and he can build into the player that we know he can be.
Do you feel that you're in a really good position now to springboard for the rest of the season? You've had a pretty tough draw leading up to now, and it's been well documented that your draw actually gets probably a little bit easy if you look at position on the ladder. Do you think you're in a really good position now to actually push for finals?
Look, we'd prefer to be in a better position.
Yep.
We let ourselves down in a few tight games, and we could be in a much better position than when we are. So the season will play out the way it plays out. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. The fact is, we'll just keep attacking each week by week, and we'll stack up the number of wins against the number of losses later in the season and see where we sit.
I probably didn't ask that question right. Do you think you're playing better footy than it suggests your position on the ladder?
No, I think I've said consistently that the foundations of what we're doing are pretty sound, but we need to put the finishing touches on our work, and it came together for us on the weekend, but it wasn't like a bolt from the blue. We thought that the fundamentals of what we were doing were pretty good.
A lot of speculation about players such as Josh Kelly, Dusty Martin, and the club being able to fit both players if they agreed to come here. Do you need both players? What's your view on?
Yeah. No, I'm going to say we don't want them. No, we don't want good players.
Could you accommodate both players?
I don't analyse the total player payments in depth. I couldn't tell you how exactly that would fit. But I think for North Melbourne supporters, it's really encouraging to know that the club's in really solid hands in terms of our future planning and what we're trying to set up. And we're getting exposure to some young players that our fans haven't seen before. I think it's encouraging for them to even hear those sort of names associated with our club. So that's a positive. But I understand there's going to be a lot of media speculation and people are interested, but I think from our point of view, there's been enough said on player movement, and the players you mentioned are contracted to other clubs at the moment, and I think it's unsavoury to talk about player movement. We'll just go about our business and we won't provide a running commentary on it.
One of your veterans, Lindsay Thomas, obviously finds himself suspended. What do you do with Lindsay in the next few weeks, and I suppose what's the plan for him for the rest of the season?
Well, look, Lindsay's moved on. Like we've sat down and had a good chat, and I've shown unwavering support to Lindsay, and that hasn't changed in the slightest. He's got our total support. He's got my total support. We get an opportunity now to put him through a bit of a mini pre-season, and he'll be available for us after the bye, and we'll have him in just terrific physical and mental condition to go out and attack the second half of the year. So we've dealt with it, and we move on pretty quick.
What about Andrew Swallow? Where's he at?
In terms of where
do you see him at the moment?
Yeah, well, he unfortunately had gastro last week, so he's got a couple of things he's really keen to work on. He's had a couple of niggles in a strange sort of way. No one wants to get gastro, but his body's actually feeling better for it, having not played on the weekend. So he'll get an opportunity to come out and play in the VFL this week and push his case. And look, he's a former captain of our club and one of the fiercest competitors that I've come across. So we're certainly looking forward to having Andrew back to his best, and we'll give him the opportunity to do that.
How excited are you as coach about what you're developing here at the moment, given what we saw last week?
Oh, well, we've been excited for a long period of time. I think most people who really study footy would have seen some signs from our young players so far this year, and obviously they're all the players that you've seen in the past. But yeah, we've been excited for a long time, and we continue to be. We think we're well positioned as a club for the future, and I mean for the years to come. And I think North Melbourne's never been in a better spot. When you look at where the club is from an off-field perspective, where we are on-field, I think there's a lot to look forward to, and that's a credit to the current administration. They've done their jobs really well.
And how important would facilities development be, given you've put an application in?
Yeah, and again, that's just really exciting for this whole precinct. It's massive for North Melbourne, but this is we're so close to the city here. There's a massive need for green space, and we're keen to make this our base indefinitely. But clearly we need to grow our facilities, and we need to grow the resources that we can put around our players. So if we're not looking 20, 50 years in advance, then we're going to get landlocked here. So it's a critical redevelopment proposal for the footy club, and AFL moves really quickly. You see what other clubs are doing, and if we're not able to grow and develop, we'll have to move. And that's the last thing we want to do, because our heartland is North Melbourne and we want to stay here long term.
Can you see that facilities or brand new facilities could actually help bring new players to the club or attract new players?
I think it does. I mean, players, when they're drafted or when they move from one club to another, they want to see there's opportunity to fulfil their potential. and that's part of our job as off-field leaders of the club, to provide great coaching and great resources for them to do that.
Where do you stand on the draft age? There's a bit of talk about potentially lifting the draft age.
Yep.
Where do you sit on that? Are you happy with it, or would you like it to be older?
No, I'd like it to be older. I've been pretty consistent on my views for probably a decade that I think that in a young man's life, their 18th year when they're completing year 12 and is one of the most important years of their life. And when you combine those pressures with added football pressure, and I've always been concerned that players can get, we live in a fickle industry. Players can get tipped out really quickly, and they can finish footy qualified to do nothing else. So the 2% of the draft who are lucky enough to actually get picked up, can have great opportunities. But the 98% who work just as hard and don't get drafted, but potentially jeopardise their year 12 year, is just too big a risk to take for the industry, I think. And I think you'll find that the young players who don't come in as 18-year-olds, if they come in as 19-year-olds, they'll get that year back at the end of their career anyway. So yeah, I'm strongly in favour of the draft age going up.
Lockie Hanson's been in good form this year, probably reinvented, who's playing the same role, but reinventing himself. What's the sort of long-term future for him?
I think players never talk about injuries when they're playing, because once you cross the line you're fit and all that sort of stuff, but coaches can. And Lockie played under some pretty severe duress last year, and he was tough enough to get out there and play, but certainly wasn't at his best, and we didn't have our back half with any stability through the year last year as well. So I think it's a combination of all those factors, and Lockie's going really well, and it comes off the back of a good pre-season and full fitness.